Hi everyone, welcome to another video, and today we're going to be going through the unit of 3.2 food production. So the first thing we need to look at is agricultural systems, and they have inputs, processes, and outputs, and we're going to be going through examples of each of the inputs, processes, and outputs there are in an agricultural system. So for inputs, they can be divided into physical or human inputs. So physical inputs include soil, relief, and climate. Whereas human inputs can be labor, machinery, seeds, and fertilizers. So some examples of processes include plowing, milking, fertilizing, harvesting, and feeding. Okay, and some examples of outputs include vegetables, meat, milk, wheat, crops such as cereal, etc. Okay, so that is what the agricultural system is, and now we're going to be looking at the types of farming. So there's 6 different types. There's commercial, subsistence, arable, pastoral, intensive, and extensive. So commercial is when crops are grown to sell for a profit, and crops that are usually grown for this purpose are usually referred to as cash crops. Next is subsistence, and basically what subsistence is the growing of food crops and livestock to feed the family owning the farm. Okay, and next we're going to be looking at arable. So arable refers to farms that are primarily used for growing agricultural crops. And pastoral farms are primarily used for raising of livestock. Okay, and now we're going to be looking at intensive farming. So intensive farming is farms with high yields per hectare, and extensive farmings are farms with low yields per hectare. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to food shortages, and you need to know the natural causes, the human causes, the impacts of them, and solutions. So we're going to be first working our way through the natural causes. So natural causes of food shortages include drought, because there is extreme dryness, so crops cannot grow, and therefore there will be food shortages. Floods can also waterlog the soils, and some crops may not be able to survive in such conditions. Tropical storms can also cause food shortages, as well as pests and diseases. So human causes of food shortages include low capital investment, which is when not enough money is put into the inputs for the farm. So this could be the labor, the machinery, or just the seeds that the crops are going to grow from. The next is poor transportation. And also wars can have an effect on the food shortages, because crops may be destroyed, and it can also disrupt transport routes for food. So it can also cause food shortages. Corruption can also lead to food shortages, because there may be an unequal distribution of food, and also a rapid population increase, because there will be a higher demand for food when the population increases. Next, we're going to be looking at the effects of food shortages. So some effects include social unrest. It can also lead to migration out of the area because there is no food. It can also lead to malnutrition, and people might catch diseases that are linked with undernourishment and lack of food. The next effect is raising food prices, because when there's more demand, there will be more inflation, and therefore food prices might rise. And also there will be less economic productivity, because the overall population will have less health. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at the solutions of food shortages. So some include using fertilizers. Crop rotation can also be used, and crop rotation is basically when crops are grown at different times of the year, and therefore keeps the fertility of the soil constant. Greenhouses can also be used to plant crops, as well as mechanization, which is the introduction of machinery onto agricultural fields, as well as irrigation. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at the case studies that you need to know for this topic. The first one is an example of an agricultural system. And for this case study, you need to know 3 inputs, 3 processes, and 3 outputs of that particular system. And you also need to know a case study on a country that suffers from food shortages. So for this, you need to know 3 causes of the food shortages, 3 effects of the food shortages, and 3 solutions to help minimize and improve food distribution. Anyways, that's all for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Bye.